Welcome everyone to ChartsFocusOne's CFO Swinger Watch newsletter, where we teach you how to work hard and trade smart. All right, in this video, we'll be going over the technical analysis on the overall markets and the individual names that we'll be watching out for this week. Let's start off with SPY or SPY. So last week was a short week. We only had Monday to Thursday to trade. However, it was very, very interesting because of the fact that we were holding off the sellers that continued to come in around this 443.50-ish resistance level. Now, obviously, long term, it does look kind of bearish because of the fact that, well, the price is staying underneath the 50 and the 200 SMAs. And for the people who are new here, the 50 SMA is my dark blue line, and the 200 SMA is my yellow or gold line. Now, we also had a death cross, as we've all seen back in the month of March for the Qs and SPY here. And that's usually a bearish indication for the long-term trend. Now, the second bearish indication that we just got last week were my 10 and 21 SMAs. This pair here is my momentum SMAs, which indicates a short-term trend to either to the upside or to the downside. But in this case, we're seeing a bearish trend to the downside because my 10 SMA has crossed below the 21 SMA. And the 10 SMA here is my red line, and then the 21 SMA is my light blue line. Okay, so based off of the SMAs, everything looks very bearish, short-term wise and long-term wise. However, just based off of the candlesticks and the price action, right? And for the fact that all of last week, we were just consolidating. Do you see how the price didn't go anywhere last week? Right, we're just stuck in that 4-day range here. All right, we didn't even close below the weekly low that we made, which was 436.65, right? So we're still stuck within last week's range, right? We closed right in between last week's range. Now, if we were to break this 436.70-ish support here this week, there's a good chance that we can come back down to 427.50. However, you have to remember this 414 support level, which is our most significant price level, because that was the area where we bounced off of multiple times back in the month of February and March. And that's where we decided to hold off and decide to reverse to the upside. So if we were to break 427.50, there's going to be a lot of accelerated selling where we will see a retest at the 414 level, or possibly even lower, because you guys have to remember on the weekly time frame, we're seeing a nice bullish flag forming or a nice descending channel. So we might just revisit this descending support level or trend line that's been formed in this broader macro bullish flag. And back on the daily time frame, if we're going to be a bit more optimistic this week, all right, if you want to be a little bit more bullish, you need to look out for a bounce at 436.50 to 70-ish, all right? We do not want to see a gap down tomorrow, because if you decide to gap down, there's a higher probability of sellers to push the price lower. And sure, if we do fill in the gap, that will be a good bullish sign, but we do have 436.70 as a level of resistance if we do gap below and gap down at the open below 436.70. So it's going to have, the buyers are going to have a lot harder time, okay, to get back up if we do see a gap down. So ideally, we do not want to see a gap down below 436.70 at open tomorrow. So what we want to see instead, ideally, is a bounce at 436.70, creating somewhat of a micro double bottom from this point here, okay? And then a nice revisit back to 443.50, and then a nice break above that, confirming this bullish descending channel chart pattern. And if you decide to continue to move up higher, 450 will be a nice price target for this entire week. All right. The next one that we have for the overall market analysis is the Qs. All right. Q. So, as all of you already know, all right, the Qs, well, generally the tech sector has been very, very weak compared to the overall equity markets, right? Because if the overall markets tend to be weak, the Qs tend to be a lot more weaker, right? Or if the overall market starts to bounce and show a lot of relative strength, the Qs tend to have even more relative strength. Okay, so right now the Qs have reversed a lot more than SPY here, and it's almost pulling back to that point where the Qs were starting to bounce and break out to the upside. So if we do reach back to 334, which is literally almost 4 points away at this point, we will have erased the gains that we've made since breaking out of this 334 level. So hopefully this week, we can see a revisit of 334 and then a nice bounce so that we can get back above to 341.20-ish and then possibly a breakout above that to retest 351.50. Okay, but for QQQ, everything does look bad on the daily time frame. Even the SMAs as well, right? Yeah, so if I even had my drawings away, the SMAs look really bad. All of them are pointing downwards, right? Even the 10 and 21 SMAs are starting to curl downward. Even the 50 is curling downward, and the 200 is about to curl downward as well. So let's hope for the best for the Qs and the whole tech sector. But at the same time, I am also seeing, okay? So if you guys don't remember, we've been looking at this head and shoulders chart pattern for a long time. So we did have an initial break over here and then two breaks at two different times here, 2 different weeks, but we did not break to the downside completely. And instead we bounced above that $318 level 3 times. So this head and shoulders is still in play. Okay, it's not completely negated because if you come back down and retest that 318 level and break below, that will confirm this macro head and shoulders chart pattern on the weekly time frame. But here's the thing: there is a contradictory chart pattern forming here on the right shoulder of this head and shoulders chart pattern, and we're looking at a potential inverse head and shoulders just off of this right shoulder of this macro head and shoulders. Now, if you guys are confused, don't worry. Okay. So basically, we're looking at a macro head and shoulders, and we're looking at a micro inverse head and shoulders. Okay. And that's only on the right shoulder here. So if we're able to bounce off of this 334 support like we did multiple times here and here, all right, there's a good chance that we can actually make this inverted head and shoulders chart pattern work so that we can come back up and potentially come back above the 200 SMA, which is coincidentally perfectly residing at the 369 to 370 resistance level where we need to break above it in order to see a revisit of all-time high price levels. And mind you, the 369 to 370 price level is the neckline for this inverted or inverse head and shoulders chart pattern. Okay. So those are your levels for the overall markets. Let's take a look at our first name, AMH. Let's get rid of this. Okay. So American Homes for Rent was a name that we had last week as well. And we saw that great breakout above 41.10-ish. Now we are seeing a nice resistance around $42, which is completely fine, right? On Thursday, we rejected off of it and we ended up with a nasty inverted hammer candlestick. However, we're still very much in a nice big uptrend. So I wouldn't be surprised if it came back down, retested that 41 price level, and then bounced again, which will also allow the 10 SMA retest here at the 41 level. Okay. And for the fact that the 50 SMA, the 21 SMA, and the 200 SMA, and the 10 SMA, basically all my major SMAs that are shown in this chart are curving upwards, just shows that the price has a huge probability to continue to the upside and potentially hitting the all-time high level of $43.86. Okay. All right, our second name is HPQ or HP Incorporated. All right, so HPQ has been showing an incredible amount of strength. All right, as a tech name, I mean, this has been going straight up, right? And we're sitting at all-time high price levels. Okay, I mean, it's showing all the great signs that you want to see when the market is very volatile and it's trending to the downside, right? We're looking to see names that have high quality setups and are moving inversely to the market, or it's just showing really good relative strength, or RSS as we like to call it. So HPQ here checks off everything in the list that we need to see, right? High quality setup, RSS, and etc. But for the fact that it's even at all-time high levels, and it's made an all-time high level 2 weeks back because of the fact that Warren Buffett revealed a stake in this company. It's just amazing that this stock is doing so well with current market conditions. Now, technically, we are seeing a nice base here. All right, the price hasn't gone anywhere since the start of this base, which was back in November 24th of last year. And if we're able to come back above 39 to around 38, okay, and stay within that range here, we can potentially see another breakout attempt back to new all-time high levels. All right. So if you go into intraday timeframes here, we're seeing a nice descending channel here, or falling wedge of some sort. But I expect us to come back down to around 36.50ish to around 37 before we attempt to go back up, because of the fact that we are constantly revisiting and holding near this descending support level. Okay, so whenever the price decides to stay very close to a level like this, and especially a support level, the price wants to keep on heading lower. All right, and the same is true for resistance levels as well. Okay. All right, our third name is BLL, or Ball Corporation. All right, so you guys know already how much I love this name. All right, so a name like this that tends to be very, very wicky, all right, and very volatile. And when such a name decides to break out, or it decides to have a nice trend to either to the upside or to the downside, all right, it has very, very big trading days. I mean, just take a look at this area right here, right, where it decided to reverse to the upside, and we saw huge wide trading days here multiple times. Okay, so in this one, we're seeing a lot of weakness, right? Do you see how we're about to have a death cross between the 50 and the 200 SMAs, right? And for the fact that the 10 and 21 SMAs have been showing great resistance to the price as the price heads lower, just tells you that the momentum is to the downside still. Now, we did get a good bounce at $36. And I've been waiting for that last week. Like I told you guys, that 36 can become a good price target if you shorted from 89 to around 88. And it would be a great time to take profits. And we had that evidence last week when we bounced really well off of that $86 support. Now, when we bounced off of that $86 support, we actually came back up to retest the 10 SMA. And on Thursday, we got our answer, okay? Because when we retested the 10 SMA, we immediately rejected, meaning we have a lot of sellers inbound. And for the fact that we had a lot of selling volume as well, okay, just gives me more evidence that there can be a nice potential break to the downside. And if we do, all right, there's a lot of good profits to be made on this name, because if we break below $86 again, if we come back down to $86 again this week, we will have a nice big flush to the downside and another retest at 84 to around 84.50-ish support. And if we break below that, there isn't much support left until we reach $80. All right, so that's a nice big 7-point move from Thursday's close. All right, our fourth name here is VET, or Vermilion Energy Incorporated. All right, so VET has been showing really, really strong momentum. I mean, on the weekly time frame, this is exactly what you want to see when you want to see a name reversing higher, right? Continuous higher lows and higher highs, and with good MOMO or momentum. And for the fact that we are now kind of chilling out here after a nice big movement up. I mean, the stock literally went from being from a penny stock to a double-digit stock. So it just makes sense that this name is starting to really chill out here and starting to form a nice chart pattern. And in this case, it's a nice flag or a nice symmetrical triangle or a wedge. Okay, so the main levels that you need to be watching out for is $22. If we're able to break above this and eventually on this coinciding, okay, descending resistance trend line with the $22 horizontal price level, okay, if we're able to break above that, there's a good chance that we can revisit 23.70-ish to around 25.50, which is my ultimate price target for this name. Now, I need to warn you guys though, okay? The fact that we've been going straight up, right, could mean that we can make another higher low. And if price comes back down, right, if the price moves lower instead of breaking higher, right, we can see $16 again and then another bounce, right? And that bounce at $16 could potentially be the next higher low compared to the lows that we made here. All right. So just watch out, because even if we are seeing a nice consolidation here, right, which is great since we need to chill out here, it could also mean that the buying momentum is dying down as well. And sellers could come in, as that will also mean it's giving leeway for shorters to short this name back down to this support level, well, this next immediate support level at $16. All right, so our last equity name for this week is GFS, or Global Foundries Incorporated. So as you guys already know, GFS is a semiconductor name and has been seeing a lot of selling pressure in the overall, well, because of the overall semiconductor sector acting in this way. So with GFS here, I've been looking out for a revisit of this ascending support trend line that we saw form in the past, I would say 1 month and a half or so. Or excuse me, 2 months and a half, since this trend line did start nearly at the start of February here. And for the fact that we've held this ascending support trend line the past 2 times here, I have good confidence that we can see another bounce this week. Now, if we don't hold this ascending support trend line a 3rd time, okay, there's a good chance we come back down and revisit 45.50 to around $45. All right, and if we do, that will be another great entry to the long side, as we will definitely get a bounce at the 45 to around 45.50-ish support level. Okay, so that's it for this week. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys leave a thumbs up on this video and comment below what you guys think about these names and what other names that you guys are looking out for. I'll see you all guys next week and have a good luck trading this new trading week.